What if I told you Australia, the country of crowded coastal cities, packed beaches, and non-stop digital noise, still has towns quiet enough that you can simply disappear from modern life? Not by hiding illegally, but by moving somewhere so remote and small that nobody knows your past, nobody checks your social media, and nobody expects constant availability. Places where isolation and tiny populations create something rare: anonymity. Where your old life stops mattering because no one is interested in it, and your new life is defined only by who you are now, not who you used to be. Sounds like fantasy for people romanticizing rural escape or binge-watching movies about witness protection, right? Not quite. I'm Mr. Australia, and no, these towns aren't lawless hideouts, and you can't outrun legal obligations, but they are genuinely quiet, remote places where small communities mind their own business. Distance does the work of fading old connections, and reinvention happens, naturally. For people burned out by careers, relationships, or constant connectivity, these towns offer something cities no longer can: peace, anonymity, and the freedom to start over without explanation. So subscribe and let's start. Number 10. Taroom, Queensland. Cattle country, isolation, comfort Taroom in central Queensland, about 400 kilometres northwest of Brisbane, with population around 1,000 sites in cattle grazing country, where surrounding pastoral properties employ minimal workers, creating town that serves as service centre for genuinely remote region. And the combination of distance from major cities, small population creating anonymity, adequate basic services preventing complete isolation from civilization, and that Queensland country character where people mind their own business unless you specifically seek engagement creates environment where disappearing from previous life while maintaining comfortable existence is genuinely achievable. The town is remote enough that casual visitors from Brisbane or coastal cities don't pass through. You need specific reason to go to Taroom because it's not on way to anywhere tourists visit, creating isolation that filters out random encounters with people from previous life while remaining accessible enough through sealed roads that leaving for supplies or emergencies doesn't require multi-day expeditions through trackless wilderness. Housing from $100,000 to $200,000 makes establishing residence affordable through modest savings without requiring ongoing income beyond pension or minimal remote work. And properties include older homes requiring minor updates, weatherboard cottages with rural character, and basic brick houses providing secure shelter where you can establish stable base for reinvented life. The affordability means arriving with $200,000 cash from selling city property or accumulated savings creates outright home ownership, eliminating ongoing rental questions about employment, references, or background checks that rental applications demand. The population of 1,000 creates sweet spot where town is large enough to have essential services, including general store, providing groceries, pharmacy, medical centre, school, pub serving as social centre, and basic infrastructure, but small enough that genuine anonymity is achievable because with 1,000 residents spread across town and surrounding properties, there's insufficient population density to create surveillance culture where everyone monitors everyone's movements constantly. You're noticed as newcomer initially, but integration occurs through casual interactions at store or pub rather than formal social structures demanding detailed biographical information, and within months you're just another resident rather than mysterious stranger requiring investigation. The climate is inland Queensland, with hot summers requiring air conditioning and mild winters creating year-round comfortable conditions compared to southern states where winter cold requires substantial heating costs. The warmth appeals to people seeking escape from Melbourne or Sydney winters, and the cattle country landscape provides that endless horizon openness where sky dominates and land stretches, creating visual sense of space and freedom that urban density eliminates. The community character is country Queensland, where people value privacy and self-reliance, meaning newcomers aren't interrogated about backgrounds unless they volunteer information, and the cattle industry culture means transient workers and people arriving from elsewhere are normal rather than suspicious, creating social environment where reinvention is accepted practice rather than viewed as deceptive. The pub provides social connection for those seeking it while allowing hermit existence for those preferring isolation. and community events, including rodeos and agricultural shows, create optional engagement rather than mandatory participation. The practical reality is that Taroom's remoteness creates genuine disconnection from previous life. 400 kilometers from Brisbane means casual visits from old acquaintances are unlikely. Social media stalking can't force physical encounters because nobody's traveling 6 hours round trip on suspicion you're in Taroom, and the separation creates natural relationship fade where former connections gradually stop reaching out because distance and lack of shared context eliminate conversation topics. You can maintain selective contact with family or close friends while allowing broader social networks to naturally dissolve through non-response and geographic impossibility of casual meetups. Number 9. Monto, Queensland, forestry town. Affordable anonymity Monto in Queensland's North Burnett, about 450 kilometres northwest of Brisbane, with population around 1,200 combines forestry town. Character with extreme affordability at $100,000 to $140,000 and isolation, creating environment where establishing quiet anonymous existence is achievable through minimal investment while maintaining access to basic services and subtropical climate that makes daily life comfortable year-round. The town sits in forestry region where timber industry historically employed substantial workforce, but decline left town with infrastructure supporting larger population than currently exists, creating scenario where services remain adequate while population density is minimal, allowing genuine privacy despite living in town rather than remote property. The housing affordability is extraordinary, with $100,000 to $120,000 buying established home with modern amenities, allowing person arriving with modest savings from superannuation, property sale, or accumulated funds to establish residence without ongoing mortgage, or rental obligations that create paper trails and require employment verification. Outright home ownership eliminates landlord oversight, rental inspections, and that surveillance that comes with answering to property managers about lifestyle choices or guest frequency. The population of 1,200 creates that critical mass where basic services exist, including supermarket providing groceries at reasonable prices despite remoteness, medical centre with GP for routine healthcare, pharmacy dispensing prescriptions, school employing teachers who contribute to community diversity, pub and cafe providing social spaces, and community facilities supporting local organisations. But the population remains small enough that monitoring everyone's movements is impossible, and privacy is achievable through simply not volunteering information. Nobody knows your business unless you make it their business through dramatic behaviour or constant crisis requiring community intervention. The climate is subtropical North Burnett, with warm year-round temperatures, avoiding extreme heat of further inland while escaping coastal humidity, creating comfortable conditions where outdoor activity is pleasant most days, rather than limited to brief periods between oppressive heat and cold extremes. The warmth appeals to people exhausted by southern winters and seeking year-round comfortable existence without extreme temperature management costs. The forestry character creates transient population, where workers arrive for contracts, then leave, families relocate following employment, and population turnover is normal rather than suspicious, making newcomer arrival unremarkable and integration achievable without extensive biographical explanation. The economic challenges from forestry decline mean community welcomes anyone contributing through consumer spending, volunteer participation, or simply maintaining property rather than creating abandonment aesthetic, lowering barriers to acceptance compared to prosperous towns where established residents view newcomers as threats to character or property values. The practical isolation comes from distance. 450 kilometres from Brisbane means weekend visits from previous life contacts are unlikely, requiring specific intent rather than casual drop-ins. And the route to Monto doesn't coincide with tourist destinations, meaning random encounters with people from past are statistically improbable. You can maintain selective contact through phone or internet with immediate family or close friends while allowing broader networks to fade through natural attrition that distance creates. And social media can be managed through privacy settings, name changes, or complete abandonment depending on desired level of disconnection. Subscribe to show that that these videos actually help and make sense. Number 8. Eidsvold, Queensland, remote North Burnett. Quiet Eidsvold, in Queensland's North Burnett, about 400 kilometres northwest of Brisbane, with population around 600 combines. Extreme remoteness with just adequate services and affordability at $90,000 to $120,000, creating environment where disappearing from previous life is achievable through minimal investment while maintaining basic civilization comforts rather than requiring complete bush hermit existence, eating bush tucker, and living in improvised shelter. The population of 600 creates ultimate small town anonymity, where everyone knows there's someone named John or Sarah living in the weatherboard cottage on that street, but nobody knows or cares about detailed biography, previous employment, relationship history, or reasons for relocating, because small populations breed privacy, respect out of necessity. When you live in town of 600, you'll encounter everyone eventually. So creating drama through gossip or intrusion makes your own life unbearable through social blowback. The equilibrium becomes mutual privacy, where people acknowledge each other, engage in pleasantries, but don't interrogate backgrounds unless crisis requires intervention. The housing affordability at $90,000 to $120,000 means person arriving with $100,000. Cash establishes permanent residence, eliminating all housing costs beyond rates and maintenance, creating lifestyle where pension income, minimal remote work, or modest savings drawdown sustains comfortable existence without employment pressure, landlord oversight, or financial stress that creates vulnerability, requiring explanations to authorities or support agencies. Outright ownership provides security and independence that renting can't match, particularly for people whose complicated backgrounds might create rental application difficulties. The services are minimal but adequate, with general store providing groceries and essential supplies, medical centre offering primary care from GP for routine health monitoring and acute illness treatment, pharmacy dispensing prescriptions, pub serving as social centre for those seeking connection, school educating handful of local children, and community facilities supporting limited local organisations. Bundaberg, 2 hours away, provides hospital care and major shopping when needed, making Eidsvold viable for people requiring periodic access to comprehensive services while desiring daily isolation from urban density and surveillance. The climate is subtropical with warm, comfortable conditions, year-round, making outdoor activity pleasant and eliminating extreme temperature management costs that budget-conscious people hiding from previous lives need to minimize. The warmth allows simple living without expensive climate control infrastructure, and the agricultural landscape provides that rural aesthetic without harsh desert or extreme tropical conditions requiring specialized adaptation. The remoteness creates genuine geographic barrier where 400 kilometers from Brisbane means previous life contacts won't casually visit. Social media stalking can't force physical encounters because nobody's making 8-hour round trip on speculation you're in Eidsvold, and the isolation allows complete disconnection if desired or selective maintenance of important relationships while allowing toxic connections to naturally fade through distance and non-response. Family can visit if you want them to, but former colleagues, failed relationships, and drama-prone acquaintances won't travel that distance on whim. Number 7. Dunedoo, New South Wales, Central West Isolation Value. Dunedoo, in Central West New South Wales, about 350 kilometres northwest of Sydney, with population around 1,000, provides affordable anonymity at $100,000 to $250,000 with adequate services. And that central New South Wales agricultural character, where people mind their own business, creating environment where establishing quiet existence without biographical explanation is achievable through simply purchasing property, behaving reasonably, and not creating drama requiring community intervention. The affordability allows establishing residence without ongoing housing costs that create paper trails. Person with $120,000 cash purchases comfortable home, outright eliminating rental applications, employment verification, mortgage applications, and all financial surveillance that comes with not owning residence. The independence that ownership provides is psychologically valuable for people whose backgrounds include financial complications, employment gaps, or relationship breakdowns that create rental difficulties but don't preclude cash property purchase. The population of 1,000 creates town large enough for basic services, including supermarket, medical centre, pharmacy, pub, school and community. Facilities, but small enough that comprehensive monitoring of residents' movements and activities is impossible, allowing privacy through simply not volunteering information or creating situations demanding intervention. You exist as resident known by name and face, but not by detailed biography unless you choose to share, and community culture respects privacy as long as you're not creating problems requiring collective response. The agricultural economy creates population, including families with generational connections, transient workers following seasonal employment, and people who arrived from elsewhere seeking affordable living, making newcomer integration unremarkable rather than suspicious. The economic challenges mean community welcomes consumer spending and property maintenance rather than interrogating why someone chose Dunedoo for relocation, lowering barriers to acceptance compared to prosperous areas where established residents guard character against outsider influence. The distance from Sydney at 350 kilometres creates genuine geographic barrier where casual visits from previous life are unlikely, requiring specific intent and multi-hour drives, while the route doesn't coincide with tourist destinations, meaning random encounters with people from past are improbable. You can maintain selective contact with family through phone calls or rare visits, while allowing workplace connections, failed relationships, and drama-prone friendships to naturally dissolve through distance and non-response that geography makes unavoidable. The practical lifestyle is country town, where daily routine involves shopping at local store, occasional pub visits if seeking social connection, medical appointments at local centre with Mudgee 90 minutes away for hospital care, and that simple existence where entertainment is reading, gardening, maintaining property, or exploring surrounding countryside rather than constant social engagement and digital connectivity that urban life demands. The simplicity appeals to people burned out from metropolitan complexity and seeking existence where each day's requirements are achievable without sophisticated planning or constant adaptation to changing circumstances. Number 6. Nyngan, New South Wales. Highway Junction. Isolation. Nyngan, in central west New South Wales, about 580 kilometres northwest of Sydney, with population around 2,000 sites at junction of Mitchell and Barrier highways, creating service town for pastoral region with extreme remoteness and affordability at $80,000 to $180,000, making it viable option for people seeking to disappear from previous lives while maintaining connection to basic civilization through highway access and essential services. The population of 2,000 creates anonymity through numbers. Not so small that every movement is monitored, but not large enough to create urban surveillance. Culture where cameras, dense population, and overlapping social networks eliminate privacy. You're noticed as newcomer, then gradually become just another resident as months pass and novelty fades, and the highway junction location means transient population is normal, with truck drivers, travellers, and workers passing through, creating environment where people arriving from elsewhere aren't remarkable, requiring extensive explanation. The housing affordability, with properties from $80,000 to $150,000, allows establishing residents through minimal investment. Person with $100,000 cash purchases home, outright eliminating all housing payment obligations forever, creating security and independence that's psychologically valuable for people whose backgrounds include complications, making ongoing financial obligations stressful or unsustainable. The outright ownership eliminates landlord oversight, rental inspections, employment, verification, and reference requirements that rental applications demand. The climate is inland with hot summers requiring air conditioning and cool winters needing heating, creating temperature extremes that budget-conscious people need to manage through pensioner concessions and solar investment. But the agricultural landscape provides that openness and sky dominance where sense of space and freedom contrast dramatically with urban density and surveillance that some people desperately need to escape. Number 5. Quilpie, Queensland. Outback affordable isolation. Quilpie in outback Queensland about 1,000 kilometres west of Brisbane, with population around 600 combines. Extreme remoteness, with minimal but adequate services, and affordability, including free land programs or properties from $5,000 to $15,000, creating ultimate affordable disappearance option, where minimal investment establishes residence in location so remote that previous life connections can't casually intrude, while basic civilization comforts prevent complete descent into survivalist hardship. The population of 600 creates that intimate small town dynamic where everyone knows everyone exists, but detailed biographical knowledge isn't demanded because small communities breed privacy respect. Interrogating newcomers creates social tension that makes everyone's life harder, so equilibrium becomes acknowledging presence while respecting privacy unless crisis demands intervention. You're John who lives in that house and occasionally shops at the store, not John whose entire life history and reason for relocating to Quilpie requires community knowledge. The extreme affordability through free land programs or $5,000 to $15,000 properties means person with $20,000 cash establishes home ownership and has funds remaining for vehicle, solar panels, and living expenses, creating existence where pension income or minimal remote work sustains indefinitely without employment pressure or financial vulnerability. The land programs require building commitments, usually meaning minimum $100,000 construction, creating total investment around $120,000 for permanent comfortable residence in location where ongoing costs are minimal. The services are basic but prevent complete isolation. General store provides groceries and essentials. Medical center offers primary care. Pharmacy dispenses medications. Pub serves as social center. School educates local children, and community facilities support limited organizations. The artesian bore provides free hot water reducing utility costs. And the remoteness creates self-reliant culture where residents help each other with practical tasks, creating social connection based on mutual support rather than biographical interrogation. The climate is outback Queensland with hot summers and mild winters requiring air conditioning, but providing year-round warmth that eliminates heating costs southern states demand. The endless horizons and big sky create visual sense of space and freedom that appeals to people seeking escape from urban containment. And the remoteness provides that genuine isolation where you can go days without encountering another person if desired. Yet town is available when human contact or supplies are needed. Number 4. Pooncarie, New South Wales, Darling River, end of road. Pooncarie in far west New South Wales on Darling River, about 160 kilometres south of Broken Hill, with population around 60, represents extreme end of viable disappearance options, where isolation is so profound that previous life connections simply cannot intrude. Yet minimal services and river location prevent complete descent into survivalist hardship, requiring bush skills most people don't possess. The population of 60 creates ultimate anonymity through irrelevance. You're so far from anywhere that nobody's monitoring your movements because there's insufficient population to create surveillance culture. And geographic isolation means your presence or absence doesn't affect broader systems that track people through employment, services, or social networks. You simply exist in place that's forgotten by broader Australia, making invisibility achievable through irrelevance rather than active hiding. The housing affordability with properties from $40,000 to $100,000 allows establishing residence through minimal investment. And the desperate market where more properties are available than buyers exist means sellers don't scrutinize purchasers' backgrounds or financing, creating cash transactions that involve minimal documentation or verification. You arrive with cash, purchase property, become resident without extensive biographical interrogation that more competitive markets demand. The services are minimal, with general store, pub if operating, and basic community facilities, while medical care requires travel to Broken Hill 160 kilometres away, making Pooncarie viable only for healthy individuals comfortable with medical isolation or willing to relocate if health deteriorates, requiring regular care. The Darling River, when flowing, provides water access, though drought cycles create long periods where river is stagnant pools or completely dry, eliminating that feature. The climate is harsh inland, with extreme summer heat exceeding 40 degrees regularly, and cool winters creating temperature swings that require both cooling and heating. Though the isolation and minimal costs make temperature management achievable through solar investment and acceptance that extreme days mean indoor existence rather than outdoor activity, the harshness filters population to those genuinely committed to isolation rather than romantic urbanites seeking country aesthetic without accepting genuine hardship. The community of 60, people who remain, are a mix of individuals with nowhere else to go. Those preferring extreme isolation to urban connectivity, and handful maintaining generational connections to district despite economic collapse. The social dynamic is libertarian privacy, respect where people acknowledge each other but don't interrogate choices or backgrounds, because everyone remaining in Pooncarie has complicated reasons and demanding explanations, creates conflicts that small population can't absorb without destroying social fabric entirely. Number 3. Tasman Peninsula, Tasmania, isolated accessible combination. Tasman Peninsula in southeastern Tasmania, about 90 kilometres from Hobart, combines dramatic isolation through geography with reasonable accessibility through sealed roads, creating unique situation where disappearing from mainland life is achievable while maintaining connection to Tasmania's services. And that island isolation creates additional barrier between past life and present existence. The peninsula's geography, with narrow Arthur Highway connecting it to broader Tasmania, creates physical isolation where monitoring who enters and leaves would be theoretically possible, creating slight security concern for people genuinely hiding. But practically, the tourist traffic to Port Arthur makes individual travellers anonymous, and the scattered settlement across Peninsula means establishing residence in quiet area away from tourist routes creates genuine privacy. Small communities, including Nubina, Cunha and Premedina, provide minimal services and housing from $200,000 to $400,000, allowing establishment with modest superannuation or property sale proceeds. The population across Peninsula of approximately 3,000 spread across multiple settlements creates anonymity through dispersion. You're not living in tight village where everyone monitors everyone, but rather scattered community where neighbours might be hundreds of metres away, and daily life doesn't require constant interaction with other residents. The combination of dispersion with adequate services, including general stores, medical centre, school, and community facilities, creates lifestyle where isolation and civilization coexist, allowing hermit existence or selective social engagement depending on preference. The climate is temperate Tasmanian, with cool year-round conditions, avoiding extreme heat, while providing mild winters that don't require extensive heating, appealing to people exhausted by mainland heat extremes. The coastal scenery is spectacular, with cliffs, beaches, and that dramatic landscape creating visual appeal and recreational opportunities through walking trails and coastal exploration that provide engagement without requiring social interaction or expensive entertainment. The Tasmania location creates additional isolation layer, where even if someone from mainland past discovers you're in Tasmania, locating specific address on Tasman, Peninsula requires local knowledge and persistence that casual stalking or unwanted contact attempts won't sustain. The island isolation combined with peninsula geography creates multiple barriers to unwanted intrusion while maintaining civilized infrastructure, preventing complete disconnection from healthcare, supplies, and emergency services. Number 2. Strahan, Tasmania, West Coast isolation beauty. Strahan, on Tasmania's west coast, about 300 kilometres from Hobart, with population around 700 combines, dramatic isolation through geography, with tourist infrastructure, creating services and economic activity, unusual for such remote location, making it viable disappearance option where spectacular natural beauty and adequate amenities create comfortable existence despite isolation from mainland Australia and broader Tasmania. The west coast location on Macquarie Harbour creates geographic isolation where reaching Strahan requires commitment through winding mountain roads or boat access, filtering casual visitors while allowing determined travellers to arrive and depart. The isolation historically made West Coast Tasmania separate from eastern population centres, creating cultural independence and that frontier character, where people's pasts aren't interrogated as long as present behaviour is reasonable and contributions to community are positive. The population of 700 creates small town intimacy balanced with tourist anonymity, where permanent residents are known to each other, but seasonal tourist influx creates cover for newcomers, integrating gradually rather than being immediately identified as mysterious outsiders requiring explanation. The tourism industry employs workers seasonally, creating transient population alongside permanent residents, making newcomer arrival normal rather than remarkable, requiring extensive biographical justification. The housing, from $250,000 to $500,000, requires moderate investment but provides residents in location with reliable employment through tourism, adequate services including medical centre and general stores, and that spectacular scenery including Gordon River cruises, Franklin Gordon Wild Rivers National Park, and ocean beaches, creating lifestyle amenities that isolated towns usually can't provide. The investment is justified by combination of isolation with civilization, preventing complete disconnection from healthcare and supplies while maintaining genuine privacy through remoteness. The climate is temperate west coast with high rainfall, creating lush rainforest environment and mild temperatures, year-round avoiding extreme heat and cold, but requiring acceptance of frequent rain and cloud. The weather appeals to people exhausted by mainland sunshine expectations and seeking that moody atmospheric environment where rain and mist create privacy through limiting outdoor observation and surveillance. Number 1. King Island, Bass Strait, ultimate island isolation. At number 1, King Island in Bass Strait between Tasmania and Victoria, with population around 1,600 combines. Island isolation requiring either flight or freight ship access with adequate services and productive economy, creating ultimate disappearance location where geographic barriers absolutely prevent casual intrusion from previous life, while maintaining civilization comforts and economic opportunities, preventing complete descent into survivalist isolation requiring skills most people don't possess. The island location eliminates casual contact completely. Reaching King Island requires booking flights to either Burnie or Melbourne, then connecting to King Island flights, costing several $100s, making impulse visits financially prohibitive and logistically complex, or arranging freight ship passage that's irregular and weather dependent. The isolation means previous life contacts can't drop by unexpectedly. Social media stalking can't force physical encounters because nobody's spending $500 and 6 hours traveling each direction on speculation. You're there, and the barrier creates absolute disconnection from mainland drama while allowing selective contact with family through phone or scheduled visits. The population of 1,600 creates town-sized community with adequate services, including supermarket providing groceries, medical centre with GP for primary care, pharmacy, schools, bakery, cafes, pub, and community facilities, making daily life comfortable without constant supply trips to mainland. The island's dairy industry, fishing, and tourism create employment opportunities for newcomers seeking work. And the productive economy means community welcomes contributors rather than interrogating why someone chose island isolation for residents. The housing from $250,000 to $500,000 requires investment, but provides residents in location with spectacular coastal scenery, productive agricultural landscape, employment opportunities, and services adequate for comfortable long-term existence rather than short-term hiding requiring eventual relocation when resources deplete. The investment creates permanent, viable lifestyle rather than temporary escape requiring unsustainable arrangements. Support the channel by subscribing, because content showing 10 Australian towns where genuine quiet disappearance is achievable beats urban existence, demanding constant connectivity, and metropolitan life requiring explanation of every decision and movement to surveillance systems tracking everything.